What would you do when you're 100 years old? Or perhaps a better question to ask is, what would you do to actually get to 100 years old? This question is answered by the Bluezones project. According to Dan Buettner, a blue zone is a place in the world where people have higher life expectancies than average, with many people within the area living to over 100 years old. There are currently 5 identified blue zones around the world. They include Okinawa in Japan, Sardinia in Italy, Nicoya in Costa Rica, Ikaria in Greece, and Loma Linda in California. Upon further investigation, researchers found a trend present in all 5 of these areas. They are now known as the Power 9. The first one is moving naturally. This means living in areas that incorporate movement as a compulsory daily exercise. The second one is having a sense of purpose. The third one is downshift, meaning having a routine to de-stress. The fourth one is the 80% rule, meaning that you stop eating when you feel 80% full. The fifth one is plant slant, meaning that you eat beans and nuts as a big part of your diet, along with plants as well. The sixth one is wine at 5, meaning that you consume small amounts of alcohol every day. The seventh one is belonging, meaning that you are part of a faith-based community. The eighth one is loved one first, meaning that you live close to all your family members, and especially elders, and spend a lot of time with them. Finally, the ninth one is right tribe, meaning surrounding yourself with a few friends who are good influences. Another aspect of the Bluezone project is life radius. This is the place where you spend 90% of your lives in. The Bluezones team has listed 6 areas that they want to transform in order to get different communities closer to actually becoming a Blue Zone. Meanwhile, the 12 pillars are the ways that we can actually achieve this. The first 3 pillars are areas where city governments can make a change, while the next 6 are focused on creating healthy environments in the places where you spend most of your day. The last 3 are focused on creating programs and networks that help people socialize and define their purpose in life. So, knowing all this, I'd like to now introduce you to my own community. I live in Bogor, Indonesia. Here, the life expectancy is about 70.7, which isn't too bad, but we're not that close to becoming a blue zone either. One area in particular that I think sets us pretty far apart from becoming a blue zone is the moving naturally part of the Power 9. Moving naturally has proven to be a big factor in longevity, with all the 5 current blue zones somehow incorporating it in their daily lives. For instance, those in Sardinia get their movement from going up and down their houses. Okinawan women get their movement for sitting down and standing up every day. And people in Loma Linda, California tend to get their movement from walking to place, which is actually pretty practical. There are 2 main reasons why I think we in Bogor don't move naturally as much as we should. The first one is private transportation. In 2017 alone, 13.6 million of cars and even more motorcycles were used in Indonesia. This indicates that a lot of private transport are used in Indonesian cities, and Bogor is one of them. Even in the road that I live in alone, I can see probably 20 cars owned or zooming around all the time. The common use of private transport means that there isn't really a lot of people that go from place to place on foot or using things like bicycles that encourage daily movement. The fact that the streets in some places are pretty poorly built, small, or dangerous or breaking down also doesn't motivate people to get around as much as it should. I can actually testify to this since I rarely ever get from place to place on foot here. Thus, because of this, we tend not to get the movement we need. The second reason why we in Bogor don't really get that much movement is because we have domestic workers. Domestic workers are very common in Indonesia, with the National Network for Domestic Workers Advocacy reporting that there are about 4.2 million domestic workers countrywide. Bogor is no exception to this, because most people have nannies, maids, or some other form of domestic workers. We have someone to do the chores, we have someone to cook and do the things that we need, or buy the things that we need. Because of this, people generally don't get too much movement within the household. Because of these reasons, we tend to lose the moving naturally part of the Power 9, because our environment and mindsets don't really encourage us to do so. Knowing this, an action has to be taken to help those in Bogor get one step closer to becoming a blue zone. The changes that I think can be made that could be tied to two areas of life radius. The built environment, which includes improving roads, transportations, parks, and public spaces, and municipal policies and ordinances, which promote activity. It also ties to the first three of the 12 pillars, which include creating government policies, which will promote the aspects of the Bluezones project, and the built environment, which means improving facilities and such. So here's the idea I propose: a car-free day. Car-free days have taken place in Bogor before, and some are actually still happening now, though it's usually in a very small scale, only in certain streets and areas for a certain amount of time. However, this small-scale car-free day will not prompt any change because people can still avoid that. They won't really be more active and get from place to place on foot. However, the car-free day I have in mind is a city-wide car-free day for the whole day on Sundays, every week. This way, people would eventually be urged to get around the city by simply walking or taking a bike, both activities that encourage natural movement. In turn, the Bogor government could actually also improve road construction, leading to trying to include more pedestrian walkways and areas so that people are more encouraged to walk, especially on days like this car-free day. This is actually already starting to happen, and therefore can be done in a larger and more effective scale. By doing so, it would greatly improve the habits of people in the long term. People would actually start to see that it's quite enjoyable to walk around when there aren't too many vehicles and cars zooming around. After all, Bogor is a really beautiful city with lots of unique nature and beautiful sights. It may even turn into a de-stress routine, which is another point in the Power 9. And eventually, there will be a mindset change, leading to more people implementing more natural movement to get from place to place in their daily life. This could be the first step to getting Bogor just a little bit closer to becoming a blue zone. Thank you.